Hi and welcome to Leitrim Daily. My name is Brett Early and you're listening to the Sports Preview Show here on the podcast. It's episode 210 and once again we're brought to you in partnership with the local enterprise office Leitrim. You can find out all about their services to businesses in the county, especially in this time of regeneration after the coronavirus shutdown at localenterprise.ie/Leitrim. Specifically, we'd like to mention their 90% grant for online trading vouchers. And if you're interested in both getting yourself and your business up and running online, do get in touch with us here at leitrimdaily.com. info@leitrimdaily.com is our email. We'd love to help you develop that project to fruition, whatever it might be over the next few weeks and months. Do get in touch if you want more information on that. Thank you to the local enterprise office for their continued support. In terms of the actual sporting events across the weekend, we have plenty of action. It's the third round of action in the Senior and Intermediate Football Championships, the second round in the Junior Championships, and also in the Ladies competitions. Plenty of games, full rounds in all of those competitions this weekend. It's also the return of the first of our elite sports, the first of our national leagues, back in action this weekend, and there is Leitrim representation in that. Niall Morahan of Sligo Rovers will be joining us to talk to us all about what's happened over the last few months and really how excited he is to be back playing football again. They travel to Derry City tonight to play in the Brandywell in the first fixture of the new restarted league. It's a bit of an ask for Sligo Rovers this season. They're currently bottom of the table. We'll talk to Niall about all of the situations ongoing in the club, the fundraising that they've done, as well as the arrival of their new signing Junior, last year's top scorer, to try and put their league position on a brighter note as the season progresses. We'll be talking to Ray McBrien of St. Joseph's Ladies Football Club. He's their head coach and their manager, and he'll be talking to us about their bid for 4 in a row in Leitrim and why they haven't even really thought that far ahead as they face into a big game this weekend against Sean O'Heston's in Carrigallen on Sunday morning. While in the intermediate grade, we'll be focusing on that this week, and we'll be chatting to the Annaduff Manager Karl Foley. They have a bye this weekend. They play no game, but they will be eagerly waiting to see what happens in their opponents' games over the next 2 days or so. As we have done on every week so far this season, we're going to start with the new team on the block, and that of course is Sligo Rovers, who make their return this week. They're in action tonight in the Brandywell in Derry, and Niall Morahan dropped in to have a chat with us earlier in the week. Now this weekend sees the return of soccer to the region, especially at a Premier League level in the SSE Airtricity League. Of course, we've had Niall Morahan from Leitrim Village on the show many times over the last few months at this stage, and he joins me now ahead of the restart. It's a league you shut down, Niall, by scoring your first goal. We've mentioned that on the show before, but you must be excited now to be back, getting ready to face Derry City this afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like I said a few episodes back, it's been a long break, and I think everyone is just raring to go at this stage, and fans and players alike just can't wait for the restart of the season.
In terms of the breakdown of the game, obviously you've been involved at a professional level with Sligo now. You just probably celebrated your second anniversary with them. How does that feel to be kind of going into almost your third contract or third year with the club?
Strange, I think, a bit, yeah, because I suppose I did sign this time 2 years ago, and I had that kind of end of the season, half season, and then obviously last year was my first full season, and kind of felt that I'd been in and around the first team long enough that kind of need to be pushing on a bit, and not so much one of the senior players, but have to stand up and be counted, because you've been in and around this for about 2 years now, so just kind of have to stand up and be counted.
In terms of I suppose how this season has gone, we've talked about it before in terms of been shut down by coronavirus. We're not going to get bogged down with that. People don't really want to listen to that. But in terms of the future, there are some subtle changes to the league. The halving of the number of games from 36 to 18, just a double round rather than a quadruple round this year. How much of a difference does that make to Sligo, particularly given how poor the start was to the season for the team?
Yeah, given the restart and obviously the fact that we're bottom of the table, and now that we don't, like you said, we have 14 games, not the usual 36. So it does make a big difference to ourselves. But at the end of the day, it's what we're given and what we have to deal with. So we just have to go out and kind of play every game like our lives depend on it, So we just have to do what we're told, I suppose.
How much will the 4 games already played factor into your plans? Like, are they just forgotten about at this stage, or because you come back in a different situation? There was a huge injury crisis back in February and March. That doesn't seem to be as big a problem within the squad now. I know a number of players have returned to action over the last couple of games. I watched half of your pre-season friendly with Galway United last weekend, and Regan Donlan was back on the pitch, amongst others. How good is it to see those lads coming back, and will it really bolster what was looking a bit threadbare at the start of the season?
Yeah, definitely. Just like you said, the lads being back, it is a big boost in the dressing room. And as at the start of the season, we were missing quite a few, especially defenders. In terms of learning from the last 4 games, you usually learn a lot more from losses than you do from wins. So it's not completely forgotten about. We know what's happened and where we have to improve. So we're just kind of looking to hit the ground running and not make the same mistakes we did in the opening 4 games.
In terms of, I suppose, that hole in the back of the defence in those 4 games, a little bit filled now, will that free you up to play more in a traditional midfield role, or where do you see yourself fitting into that 11?
So far in pre-season, I've played the 3 90-minute games of our friendlies, and the majority of it has been in the centre midfield role, so hopefully looking to play there once the season starts up.
In terms of, again, strength and depth in the squad, obviously a well-publicised signing of Junior, has last year's top scorer. He was with Derry for the season last year. Now he's come back from Israel to play with Sligo. Won't be available for the first couple of games, but should slot in and will hopefully provide some much-needed firepower up front. Stephen Folan's name has been mentioned by the club. There's been no official release yet. Can you tell us something about that?
Not in terms of Stephen Folan. I haven't heard anything, to be honest with you. But touching on Junior there, a very big signing on our behalf. For people that know a bit about the league, they'll know he was top scorer last year. He was very influential for Derry. So we're hoping that he can do the same here and kind of hopefully be the missing piece of the puzzle.
In terms of, I suppose, where the club goes forward from here, some really exciting news there with the signature of Junior. But in terms of, I suppose, the mood within the camp, I have to kind of ask you about the last few months and the inclusion of that player into the squad at this stage. Like, obviously there's been well publicised financial issues in the club. Is the mood in the camp happy? Are you happy to see Junior in the squad, or is there any resentment about maybe the numbers that have been quoted in terms of what he's getting paid?
I don't think so. Not massively, no, because obviously everyone knows he's a good player and he will bring a lot to the team, and I think that's what it's all about at the end of the day, just going out on a Friday or Saturday night and just doing our best, and he'll help us do our best, hopefully. One
really big positive that I really want to talk to you about is the new streaming service, because it's kind of come out of the blue. I know it has been whispers about it for a long, long time, and it's an obvious enough, when you look at it from the outside, an obvious enough addition to the league. But the fact that most games are effectively behind closed doors, I know 50 supporters will get in on Friday to home games in the showgrounds for the foreseeable future, but that's significantly less than would be there on a normal match night. In terms of that streaming service, how much does that add to the league, and do the players realise, or do the players have any opinion on maybe what that's going to bring to the equation?
Personally, I think it adds a massive amount to the league, because it not only allows people in Ireland to watch it, but people abroad as well, and personally I think it should have been in the works for the last few years, because I think it's important, if people can't get to a match, that they should be able to watch it somewhere else, and like you said, just the 50 at the match, it's a big difference from having a few thousand at it, so I think the streaming will definitely help with fans keeping up to date with the games.
What has pre-season been like with those reduced numbers?
Not too different, I suppose. I suppose friendly games you wouldn't be getting a massive amount anyways, but I suppose you're not allowed players on the bench, so they're up in the stands, so there is a few people knocking about, so it's not a massive amount different, I suppose, but probably come the league restart on Friday, it will make, I'd say, a good bit of difference, because as you know yourself, the fans in Sligo, they usually...
They make a bit of noise, alright, yeah.
The 12th man, so yeah, they will be missed massively.
in terms of the game on Friday, let's talk about football for a moment. And the actual game itself on Friday, it's up to the Brandywell, a fairly daunting facility to go to the best of times. Again, without the crowd, we don't really know what you'll be expecting up there. What's your own, I suppose, idea looking forward into the game of what's there for Sligo in that particular clash?
Yeah, like I said, we'd be looking to hit the ground running and start off with hopefully a win, and if not, we take a draw. But yeah, like Derry is a tough place to go, and the Brandywell, it's not an easy spot to go to and come away with a few points. But that's what we're looking to do, and just hit the ground running. We know it's going to be tough, but we're up for it.
What's the ambition within the club in terms of where you are? Because from the outside looking in, it looks like a relegation struggle is going to be on the cards because of the shortened season. What's the viewpoint within the player group? Is the confidence there that you can come through that successfully?
Yeah, definitely. The confidence is there. We know we got off to a rocky start, but Liam, the gaffer, he's always telling us we're only 6 points off Europe at the end of the day. So if you do, like I said, pick up a few points early on in the opening games, you never know where the season could take you. But we're definitely not hung up on the fact that we're bottom of the table, and we are looking to move our way up.
On a personal note, does the signing of Junior affect your current status now as the top scorer in the team? Are you worried that he might take that little caveat from your CV at the moment?
I was a little bit worried when it was announced, to be honest, but I'll just have to up my game, I suppose.
I hope you have a good signing bonus or a good goal scoring bonus with your contract.
I don't, sadly.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought someone playing right back or defensive midfield would have thought about that in contract negotiations. In terms of your own future with the club, obviously you've made a lot of waves across the league in the first couple of games. Even though it was only 4 or 5 rounds, you won Player of the Month with the club. You've been featured in a number of articles, both in the original series of games and with the restart looking forward. I know ExtraTime.ie picked you out as the man to watch in Sligo Rovers. Does any of that come into your thinking at all, or are you focused primarily on this 100% let's get survival for Sligo this season? Yeah,
I think there's no point in being named a player to watch or a player of the month if your team's not doing well. Primarily the objective is to stay up and to go out every weekend and do your best, I suppose. And once you do that, the accolades kind of come along after that, So it is really all down to just doing well as a team and playing your best.
Now, of course, you're in action this evening at 5 p.m. on the new WatchLOI.ie streaming service. People who might want to follow your progress, it's available for £5 for the one game or €55 for the entire season. That's every single club, every single game from now to the end of October. €55 is practically a steal. But if people want to just dip in and maybe have a look at a game, see what the standard is like, and maybe catch your own silky talents of passing the ball around from whether it's right back or from defensive midfield, they can do that. It's WatchLOI.ie. Get on that and support the league and support our own talent here in Leitrim who are participating at that level. Niall, thanks very much for dropping in. Great to chat to you as always, and the very best of luck to you.
Thank you very much.
That game taking place tonight at 5:45, and it's live on WatchLOI.ie, the brand new streaming service you would have heard us talk to Niall about there in the programme. Dundalk, the champions, they host St Patrick's Athletic tonight at 7:45 from Oriel Park, while tomorrow 2 further games, Shelbourne and Waterford clash at Talca Park. That's at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, while at 5 p.m, Shamrock Rovers host Finn Harps in Tala. The final game of the round on Sunday sees Cork City host Bohemians down in Turner's Cross. 3 games to be played, back games that weren't played earlier in the season for various reasons. Monday evening, 7:45 kickoff, St Patrick's Athletic and Derry City do battle at Richmond Park, while on Tuesday evening, 2 games, Finn Harps and Shelbourne play at 5:45, and Sligo Rovers at home to Waterford on Tuesday evening, also 7:45 kickoff. 53 is the magic number in the showgrounds on Tuesday night. 53 of their season ticket holders will be all that will be allowed to be in attendance for that. Anyway, that's all the soccer that we have at National League level. Just one other reminder, those games are available on WatchLOI.ie, and you can watch each game at a cost of €5, or your full season pass is €55 for all of the games if you're based on the island of Ireland, and €69 if you're based outside of the island of Ireland. The reason for that is that there are a number of games, I think 8 games in total, that will be broadcast behind a paywall on air and you won't have access to those if you're on the island of Ireland. You'll have to get air to get those games. One other soccer game that was played in the region over the last week of note, and that of course was the Super League clash between MCR and Manor Rangers. We've talked about Manor Rangers title hopes a lot on the show over the last 6 months or so, but unfortunately that all came crashing down on Wednesday evening with a 5-3 defeat to the home side MCR in Sligo. It effectively means that where Carbery had 1 game in hand, or 2 games in hand, but a 4-point deficit, they now have 3 games. It virtually hands the title to Carbery. They would need 2 slip-ups. A very disappointing way to end the season, I suppose, really, in terms of a contest for Manor Rangers, coming so close to that Super League title. They're still in the cup final, plenty of action still to go in that season, but effectively ends their title hopes that were slightly slimming by the week and by the game. Hard luck to Manor on that defeat, and the best of luck in their build-up now for a cup final in a couple of weeks' time. Anyway, let's move away from soccer and we focus on Gaelic games for pretty much the rest of the show. In terms of the Senior Football Championship, full round of games, as we said at the top of the show, and we have in Group 1, Aughawillan and St. Mary's. They play at 7 o'clock in Aughawillan tomorrow evening on Saturday, while Mohill play Fina at 7 p.m. in Mohill also. In Group 2, Drumreilly and Melvin Gales, they do battle in Drumreilly. Game also starting at 7 p.m, while there's a local rivalry in Drumshanbo between Allen Gales and Leitrim Gales. 2 big clashes there. And how it stands at the moment in Group 1, Sean O'Heslin's Ballinamore idle this weekend. They have 2 wins from 2. They sit on top of that table with 4 points. Mohill and Fina both on 2 points, albeit Fina just after the 1 game on the opening day against St. Mary's, while Mohill picked up a win also against St. Mary's, but that defeat to Sean O'Heslin's leaves them in second place at the moment with Fina. Aughawillan and St. Mary's both scoreless in terms of league points at this stage. They do battle tomorrow afternoon at 7 p.m. in Aughawillan. It'll be a crunch game for both sides. On last week's show, we spoke about the rumours circulating from St. Mary's about the fact that Dennis Connaughton, their manager, and the club had parted ways after the defeat to Mohill last weekend. Now, we understand that during the week a meeting took place between Dennis and members of the squad and the club, and that issue has been resolved, and Dennis will be on the sideline for them tomorrow evening. We did invite someone from St. Mary's to come and have a word with us about it, but unfortunately the club have indicated that nobody was available to talk to us at this time. In Group 2, quite a similar feel to it. Glencar Manor, 2 wins from 2. They sit on top of the table with 4 points. Leitrim Gales with 1 victory. They are on 2 points, while Melvin Gales, they are also on 2 points, having won 1 of their opening 2 games. Drumreilly and Allen Gales, they face the bottom of the table at the moment. They will play each other on the last round of fixtures, but they're both in action this weekend and both will be hoping to pick up points against Melvin Gales and Leitrim Gales respectively. Manor, they currently sit top of the table, as I said, 4 points, with the 2 Leitrim Gales and Melvin Gales just chasing up behind them. It looks like it could be a knockout on that last game of the season, Drumreilly versus Allen Gales, and I suppose how it's shaping up so far. Obviously 4 of these teams in each group go into the quarterfinals, with the bottom team going into the relegation playoff. In the intermediate grade, in the Smith Monumentals Intermediate Football Championship in Group 1, Drumkieran lead the way, 2 wins out of 2 in their first 2 games, 2 fairly comprehensive victories over Aughnosheelan and Esslin see them comfortably top of the table. Ballinaglara and Bornacoola, they're following close behind with 1 win from 1 game in the case of Ballinaglara on the opening day and 2 in the case of Bornacoola. They, of course, took a narrow defeat to Ballinaglara on that opening day of the season. Esslin and Aughnosheelan still with the points on the board, but this weekend they see some action. Aughnosheelan host Bornacoola and Esslin host Ballinaglara in games where they'll be looking to get themselves off the bottom of the table and into contention for that quarter-final spot. In terms of Group 2 of the Championship, Annaduff lead the way. They also 2 wins from 2, with Gortletra and Drumahair on 2 points in pursuit. Gortletra just the 1 game played so far, while Drumahair have been out twice in this year's championship. Kiltubber 2 defeats, but both by the narrowest of margins. Their points difference just -2 points after those 2 opening round fixtures. They've been there or thereabouts in both of those games. They share bottom spot in the group at the moment with Carrigallen, and they will host Gortletra. I say host, but the game will take place in Ballinamore at 5 p.m. on Saturday afternoon. So Kiltubber looking to get their season up and running with a game against Gortletra in the Intermediate Football Championship, while in the other game in the group, Carrigallen host Dromahair. So the league leaders Annaduff with a bye and this week's fixtures. I caught up with Annaduff's manager Karl Foley to check in about how their season has gone so far and his thoughts as he looks forward towards the knockout stages of the competition. Now, we haven't had a chance to focus on the Intermediate Football Championship over the course of the last few weeks, but today we're going to take a little look at the Intermediate Football Championship so far, and I'm going to chat to Karl Foley of Annaduff, their manager, as they currently sit top of Group 2 with 2 victories in their opening 2 games. Karl, welcome back to the programme.
Thanks for having me, Breffney. Cheers.
How is life in Annaduff at the moment? It must be nice to have those 2 wins in the bag.
Yeah, it's good, Breffney. We're very happy with the first 2 games. We're very lucky. First game against Kiltubber. To be fair, I thought Kiltubber were the better team that day. But look, we grinded out the result the first day, and it set us up for a good victory against Carrigallen at the weekend. So all so far so good at the minute, but still lots of work to do, you know.
In terms of that opening game against Kiltubber, obviously it kicked off the whole club football season over in Clune on that first Friday night 2 weeks ago now. It almost seems like a lifetime ago. There's been so much football played across the county in recent weeks. In terms of that game, talk us through your own take-ins from that game, because as you said, Kiltubber impressed on the night, maybe a little bit of wayward shooting let them down, a couple of black cards on either side kind of evened up matters as well. What have you learned from the first 2 games going through?
Yeah, well, look, it was the first game back. Preparation for that had been a little bit slow. So, first and foremost, it was good to get out and have a good physical battle against Kiltubber. We knew it was going to be physical. We know they have a good management structure there in place, and the only message I was putting through to the lads was to try and hang in the game. Conditions were poor. We're always capable of getting chances, and I know we left it late, and Kiltubber somewhat died out of the game a bit, but we finished it stronger in the night. So that was the positive thing for us, that we hung in there and we kept going to the end. And as I said earlier, it really set us up for the Carrigallen game at home after that. So we got a good look at our panel too, and got a look to see how lads were on the night. And overall, I was quite pleased with the way we responded that night. And even though not playing particularly well through most of the game, we grinded out a result, and it was brilliant to be able to come out of Clune with a 1-point win that night. And as I said, set us up for Carrigallen.
In terms of the overall championship, everyone coming into the kind of start of the campaign expected this to be the most competitive competition. 1 point, and it could have gone either way in Clune on that opening night. You're 4 points from 2 games. Kiltubber currently sitting at the bottom of the table on 0 points from those opening 2 games. Is it that tight in that division?
It is, yeah. I think that the way they've restructured, the Leitrim County Board have restructured the championship this year, definitely makes the competition more competitive. And hats off to them for doing that, because bringing down 3 teams from senior grade as well makes it that more difficult. And it's what you want. You want competitive football. You have a lot of teams there. Most of the teams in intermediate grade could go on and win that competition, and it's good to see that. It's good to see that competitiveness in most teams. And as I said to Kiltubber, they came a long way from where they were last year. And as I said, I know their management structure there, who's in place, and I'd be very impressed with the guys they have on board. And they've only been 2 kicks of a ball away from 4 points themselves. So they have a big game at the weekend again, Gortletra, and sets them up to have a good crack at it. But overall, yeah, you have to say that you don't know what you're going to expect from any game you're going to be playing in intermediate grade. And there was no form guide going into the championship as well this year, so most teams are concentrating on themselves and trying to get their own camp organised as best they can. albeit not knowing too much about the opposition, and that's good as well, because as I said, you're able to just concentrate on your own camp and keep your own camp going and busy, and getting the best out of them that you can, So in that regard, yeah, it's great to have a competitive competition.
Now, you have no game this weekend, of course. You have a bye week with 2 games to follow on the future weekends. But in terms of the championship so far, you've played 2 games. Both of your opponents were playing their first games, so you couldn't scout them. Will you be out this weekend? Will you be taking in a game or two to see how future opponents might shape up?
Oh, well, of course, yeah. We'll get in the game tomorrow evening. I'm not sure. Saturday evening, I'm not quite sure which one we'll go to, but we'll have a look, and we'll see. It's an opportunity for us now to get a couple of good sessions in as well over the weekend, which is badly needed. And so a couple of good cracking games there to be played over the weekend, and we'll have a look. Of course we will. I'm not going to lie to you about that. Definitely we'll be trying to get as much information as we can out there. We'll need it. But I'm sure most of their management teams, when they get a break for the weekend, they'll do the same thing as well. But yeah, it's all about trying to get as much information as you can now at this stage. Yeah.
Obviously, you're preoccupied with Group 2, as you have been for a couple of weeks now since the draw was done. Have you cast your eye towards Group 1 at all to see maybe having one foot in the quarter-final, see who maybe might be on that other side of the draw for you?
No, definitely not. We're concentrating on our own group, definitely, and we're concentrating on what's ahead of us. We've got two teams. The last 2 games we have are the 2 teams that came down from senior grade, and no, we'll definitely just be taking one game at a time and be concentrating on Dromahare on Saturday week, and that's our sole focus for this week ahead is just have a look at them and try and put our best foot forward against Dromahare, and we can concentrate about Gortletra after that.
I suppose a lot of people wouldn't have had the opportunity to see Annaduff this year, maybe less than in recent years. You have lost a lot of players. How has that affected the squad?
Yeah, we're down 5 or 6 lads from last year. Look at it, we've had a couple of big losses there in personnel. But in saying that, we still have a strong squad there. There's a lot of young lads after coming in, and they're getting opportunities now over the championship campaign, and they've been doing really well. So in that regard, we're a very young team, or give or take 1 or 2 lads that are still hanging in there, but it's generally a very, very young team, and it's good to be working with youth, and a lot of clubs are dependent on their older players to keep going there, and in fairness, I couldn't be happier than to be working with youth, and our group they're good, enthusiastic lads, and they're good trainers, and that's why I've hung in there for the last 3 years with them. There is still something with this group, and hopefully we'll be able to go one step further this year and try and get back into that into the mix and into the final stages again. We'll be pushing for it. We are tight. We have a tight group, but we still have a good core there that's able to hurt any team at intermediate grade in Leitrim.
In terms of the overall look of the championship so far, obviously 3 teams came down from senior, as you mentioned, last season. Now Auckland, it looks to be just a little bit too much for them this year. I know numbers are a problem in that particular club, but Gortletra and Dromahare both came down. They seem to be well adapted to the challenge. Throw in the likes of Drumkeer and Balnaglera, who were in final and semi-final last year along with yourselves. Who do you see as the biggest threats to the competition going forward? Who are you kind of hoping to avoid as the season progresses until maybe semi-final or final stage if you get there?
Yeah, well, look, as I said earlier, it's a competitive competition. Anyone can win it, Breffney. And the majority of clubs will be licking their lips getting to quarter-final stage, and it doesn't really matter at that stage who you play, because they're all there. They all have to be won. Drumkeer, to me, are going to be the team to beat. They're strong. They were there at the final last year. There's very little there between them and Leitrim Gales last year, and I think if they keep going the way they're going, they'll be a huge test for anyone. Balnaglera in the semi-final last year to me didn't show up. I think they were a lot better than they showed in that semi-final last year. We had a few injuries ourselves last year going into that semi-final. It didn't help us. But you have even the likes of Bornacoola there that seem to be moving very, very well. And fairness, Seamus Mallon seems to be doing a very good job with them as well. So I wouldn't rule out Bornacoola getting there and being in the mix as well. So when you get to quarterfinal stages, it's all about winning. At that stage, it doesn't really matter who you play. It could be anybody. But look, we'll just be concentrating on our own camp, and it doesn't really matter who we play come quarterfinal. They're all there to be won.
Well, listen, Karl, enjoy your week off, although you probably will end up in the car going to games more than you would otherwise. Enjoy your week off, and the very best of luck for the two games left in the Championship.
Thanks, Breffney. Cheers for that, and
Thanks very much.
Best of luck for the rest of the year. Cheers. Thanks.
In the Vistamed Junior A Football Championship, it is the very early stages so far. Just one round of games played so far. Clune and Glenfarne with victories in Group 1 on the opening day of the season. Glenfarne, no game this weekend. Clune, they will host Gortlettra, while Carrigallen host Glencar Manor. It's Gortletra's first game at this level this year. We won't really get focused into the table so much because too early in the season yet to talk about them. In terms of the Group 2 in this competition, Sean Heslin's and St Mary's good opening day victories on the first round of games. They will be in action this weekend, or at least Sean Heslin's will be in action. They travel to Annaduff on Sunday afternoon at 1:30. All these games in this competition, 1:30 Sunday, while Ahawillan host Ahavas in their first game at this level. It's quite difficult to say how this competition will fare out, but good results on the opening day for both Sean Heslin's and St Mary's would put a little asterisk beside their name when we're looking at this particular competition. So Junior A Football Championship, all those fixtures taking place on Sunday afternoon. Clune versus Gortlettra, Carrigallen versus Glencar Manor Hamilton, Annaduff versus Sean O'Heslin's, and Ahawillan hosting Ahavas. All those games throwing in at 1:30 on Sunday afternoon. Now, in the Ladies Football Championship, one round of games is all that's taken place here so far as well. And opening day victories for Balnamore, Glencar Manor and St Joseph's set the Senior Championship alight. They all in action this weekend, a full round of games as well. All games Sunday morning at 11 a.m. in Carrigallen. St Joseph's host Balnamore, Sean O'Heslin's, while St Bridget's do battle with St Francis, and Glencar Manor host Kiltubbard in one of the ties of the round. But I think for me the focus must be on St Joseph's and Balnamore, Sean O'Heslin's, both those teams getting good victories in last weekend's games, and they do battle in Carrigallen on Sunday morning. We caught up with their manager Ray McBrien ahead of their game. Of course, last weekend we saw the start of the Ladies Football Championships at all levels across the county. St Joseph's opened their account in fine style with a big win over Kiltubbard. Now I'm joined by their manager, Ray McBrien, after, I suppose, a very good week for your club. Ray, welcome back to the show.
Yeah, we had a good win over Kiltubbard on Sunday last. I suppose Kiltubbard were down on your tie, I suppose, and that's massive luck to them, and probably one or two more. We still have to keep up battling. You know, there was a good bit in the end, all right, but we had to work so hard for every score we got, because they defended really well and they got back in big numbers. So maybe the scoreline doesn't reflect how tight a game it was, during the course of the game.
Yeah, it was a little bit, I suppose, underwhelming. And when you looked at the final scores from the games last week, it just seemed the way the fixtures fell that probably the stronger sides were on one side of the fixtures and the weaker sides, for whatever reason, on the other side of the fixtures this year. Your game probably the tightest game of the weekend. That changes this weekend though, and you've got Sean O'Heslin's to battle with. They were very impressive last week, beating St Bridget's to no score. Will they put up a bit of a tougher battle in this game on Sunday than you've got last week?
Oh, geez, definitely, yeah. I have a lot of respect for the O'Heslin's club. A lot of very good players, mostly young players, but they're very athletic team. They've pace all over the place, and seriously, it'll take an excellent display, a very, very good display from us to get it over the line. It's not going to be easy whatsoever. The pace to burn all over, especially up front. So we'll have to be right on top of our game. And last Sunday's performance simply won't be good enough to beat Sean O'Heslin's. Definitely not.
Of course, Glencar Manor lie in wait as well later on in the round robin stage of the competition. They also had a big win last week. In terms of the ladies football, seeing those three teams, and we'll put Kiltubbert in there as well, in terms of actually they can cause a shock on any day of the week. It must be a good time for club football within the county. I know the county team is back up and running, but the club scene itself seems to be very vibrant at the moment at all levels.
Yeah, the club scene is very good at the minute, and yeah, I know we mentioned them before, the four clubs, all right, but you know, St Francis, I know they got well beaten last week, but in all fairness to them, they're down a lot of key players. Definitely Reynolds is out injured, and the McPartlins that weren't playing, Annette Reynolds. So they're down a lot of key players, and if they had them players, it would have been a lot tighter against Manor and Sunday last. And same with Bridget. Carol Le Guin not playing, Aileen Maguire not playing, plus 2 or 3 more players that would have definitely made a difference against the O'Hetland. So I suppose at the minute, yeah, there probably is the 3 of us, and then Kiltubbert as well. As you say, on any given day, Kiltubbert can and probably possibly will beat some of the top 3 teams before the round robin is concluded. So it's the early days yet. Manor had a big win Sunday, but I suppose they know themselves there'll be tougher games ahead. And you know, this year above all years is going to be an intriguing championship because O'Hetlands have really stepped up to the mark. We played them last year in the semi-final. We got a lot of early scores against them, and then we could probably sit back a little bit and defend our lead in the second half. So they're a different animal this year. So like they're really there to be beaten this year again. Like so, there's no easy games in this championship. Particularly when you get to a semi-final, you could pick the 2 teams for the final of a hat nearly at this stage.
Let's talk about your own team for a little bit, because obviously that win at the weekend, but what's the squad shaping up like? Any new faces that people might not have been familiar with over the last few years?
Yeah, well, we have a few new faces. I suppose we went with more or less the same team nearly every game last year because we had no injuries, I suppose, last year. But this year early on, we've lost 2 of our defenders. Elaine McGovern, serious shoulder injury. She's possibly gone for the year. Shannon O'Rourke, hamstring injury that her the last number of weeks. She's definitely gone for another few weeks at least. So they are 2 big losses. So we've drafted in a young girl, Ava McCabe, and Sunday last. She's done a good job for us cornerback. So she's into the fold now, and the likes of I suppose Rachel McIntyre, Celine Short, Aideen Casey, they've stepped up to the mark. They're a year older. So we have a panel, and actually believe it or not, we're in about 8 or 9 new players into the panel this year from last year. They're only 15-year-olds or 16 at top. So there's a lot of them played on the second team last Sunday against St Francis and had a big win in that. So maybe not this year, but there is a lot of talent coming through there. So we're probably better set up this year on the bench more so than anything else. And again, Leona Bohan isn't playing this year as well, so she's a loss as well. She came on in most games last year, so I suppose there's pluses and minuses. As I say, if we have 3 or 4 injuries, we need a bit of backup, and we're working on that at the minute in some of these round robin games, trying to get a better panel in place, so that if we do get injuries, you know, in the later stages, if we get there, we have a bit of backup to come in that can do a job for us.
I suppose sitting on 3 consecutive victories in the championship, most people will be asking, is a 4th one in the cards for yourselves this year? The clubs we've spoken about, all 5 of them will be looking to maybe cause an upset there. But in terms of yourself, will that strength and depth that you've managed to develop over the last season or 2, will that give you a huge advantage should you get back to a Connacht Club Championship later in the year, if that's on the cards, or if you've even thought that far ahead yet?
Well, actually, we haven't, because we know, first of all, what's in front of us in Leitrim. It's a daunting task because, you know, we're the team at the top. We're the team we've won 3 in a row. Everyone's out to beat us, obviously, and fair enough, that's the way it is, and we wouldn't expect anything else. But we learned a bit of a lesson last year, especially in Connacht, when we hadn't really enough players prepared to step up to the mark. We had 3 or 4 games in the space of 3 or 4 weeks, obviously, so there's a lot of there were tired legs there in the kind of final, and it was possibly the management's fault that we hadn't the players set up to come in and do a job for us. Whereas this year we're actually not planning on Connacht, far from it, but we are planning on having a better panel in place for, hopefully, if we do get to a semi-final in Leitrim, and a final hopefully as well. So that you can't rely on the say 16 or 17 players. You need 20 at least. So that's our aim this year, to bring in players that can come in and do a job for you on any particular day. So hopefully that will happen before the championship is out in Leitrim especially.
What's your thoughts on the restructuring of the championship to one single group of essentially 5 games against the other 5 opponents? Will it help if whoever gets to that Connacht stage, will it help them with that week after week after week of really tough competitive games?
It will to some degree, but I suppose the team with the stronger panels will work better, because you might, if you make a quarter, or if you make a semi-final fairly early on in the campaign, you can afford to rest a player or two, as you go. So the teams that can afford to do that will be better prepared going into Connacht. It doesn't matter who it is. Let it be us, let it be Manor, let it be Sean O'Heslin, let it be Kiltubber. Doesn't matter. Whoever manages, I suppose, the setup better will be better prepared for Connacht. So we'll have to just wait and see. Connacht is a massive, it's a massive task for any team to go in with 15 or 16 players. You need a panel, and whoever does get to Connacht this year will have a decent chance, definitely, but we'll have to have a good panel in place first of all. Yeah,
we've talked on the show a good bit with various managers across men's and women's football in recent weeks about substitutions and the impact that has on maybe reserve sides or second teams. Is that a thought on the sideline, or is it a distraction that you don't mind or that you don't really want?
Yeah, it's hard to know, because like last Sunday we were going fairly well, and usually if you're going well like that, you tend to throw on a few subs and you keep everyone happy. But due to the fact that we had a game later on that afternoon against St Francis, we couldn't take any chance. We did use one girl, but that's all we used. So I think the rule itself is pretty unfair on teams that's trying to put out 2 teams, because any girl that's used at any stage during the game is just gone from the second team. So if we brought on someone last Sunday for say 2 or 3 minutes, she mightn't get another minute in the senior championship, and then all of a sudden she can't play in the second team. So I think there has to be something done going forward, some sort of motion put in place that allows, like the lads, if you look at your first 17 or something like that going forward, because there's no benefit to having a second team if we might be able to field this week, but then all of a sudden if we use 4 or 5 subs next week, they're all of a sudden gone from playing in the second team. So it is pretty unfair. So I suppose the county board have to put some sort of motion in place. The Congress, I think that's probably the way they have to do it. But
yeah, I think
it's pretty it's not ideal, I suppose.
Yeah, I think just to clarify that for listeners, that's a national rule. That's not a Leitrim rule, unlike the men, where the men can set their own kind of limits and squad sizes and stuff like that. Ray, listen, the very best of luck this weekend. You have a big clash in Ballinamore against Sean O'Heslin's. I'm sure it's going to be the tie of the round in ladies football in the county. Thanks very much for joining us. I know you have a busy week as well. You're refereeing as well on Saturday evening, I believe, in the men's championship. Yeah. We might chat to you about refereeing later on in the summer as we get on to the serious rounds towards the end of the year. But thanks very much for joining us, and the best of luck on Sunday.
Just to confirm, the game is in Carrigallen and not in Ballinamore.
Apologies. Okay, Carrigallen on
Carrigallen at 11. Yeah,
11 o'clock on Sunday morning. Thanks a million. Bye bye.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks very much.
In the Ladies Intermediate Football Championship, Mohill and St Mary's have set the early lead at the top of this table with victories over Annaduff and Kildare Gales respectively. But this weekend it is the second round of games. The Kildare Gales host Dromahare, who get their season up and running, while Mohill and St Mary's in a top of the table clash, albeit at this very early stage in the championship. Some interesting ties in those particular games as well. There's also a full round of games in the junior championship, and of course this championship thrown into a little bit of turmoil last week when 2 teams withdrew very late in the day. Disappointing, I suppose, for the girls who won't get to play, but also for the teams that are trying to organise themselves for a fixture list that's shuffled around a few days before the championship starts. We are up and running though, and there are games being played. Last weekend in the opening round of games, St Joseph's had a win over St Francis B, while Drumkieran and Glencar Manor B played out a fantastic draw up there in Bugon on Sunday afternoon. These games taking place on Monday at 12 noon. St. Francis B versus Fina St. Collins, who start their season this weekend, and Drumkieran will host St. Joseph's B. Both those games at noon on Bank Holiday Monday this weekend. That is it from us this week. Thank you so much to everybody for tuning in and for listening along as we brought you the action from across the various championships this weekend. No matter where you're going to go over this week, if you're following along on one of the live streams, or you're following along the radio, or you're getting out to a game, I hope you enjoy it. Hope the weather improves from what it is here on Friday morning in Carrigallen, and best luck to everybody playing over the weekend, and hopefully the results go your way. I'll be back on Monday with a roundup of the entire sporting weekend, from the Airtricity League to our senior, junior, intermediate and ladies championships over the weekend. Talk to you then.